When we build a Muslim village, we do not threaten anyone. No. Rather, the country itself will benefit, since the village will cure diseases of the society, like the breakdown of families, like alcoholism and drug addiction, like homosexuality and lesbianism. The village will cure diseases of the society, like rampant crime and murder and kidnapping. The village will cure diseases of the society which otherwise cannot be cured. If we are attacked to try to prevent us, as someone warned me yesterday, yes, then such an act against us will confirm that we have the truth. Because you can have an ijtima with 5,000 people and you pose no threat to anyone. They do not respond to you. But all we want to do is to build a little village and they're coming after us. That is the proof that the truth is here. And secondly, if you kill one of us, we pray to Allah to send 1,000 to take his place. So now let us proceed to describe what is a Muslim village. It has to be something small to be a village. I was born in a village, Balmain village. I grew up in a village, St. Thomas village, Shikwana. So I'm a villager, I know about a village. A village is small. Maybe 200 families, 300 maximum. That's a village. We have villages all over Trinidad. We are accustomed with villages. So what's new? Secondly, a village is something outside of the city. In our case, the further outside the city, better. We have villages, remote villages in Trinidad. But this is a Muslim village. And so the majority of residents in the village would be Muslims. But make it plain and clear to everyone whom you speak to that non-Muslims are welcome in this village. Yes. On the condition that they are not hostile to Islam, because it's a Muslim village. And on the condition that they can conform with the norms of public conduct in the village. So you're not going to be with a bottle of beer in your hand walking down the street in this village. And you're not going to be half naked walking down the streets of this village. Not here. This is a village in which there would be a majority of Muslim residents, but non-Muslims would be welcome to live with us in the village in the way that they lived with us in the past. Muslims live with non-Muslims very, very friendly, cooperating. So it's nothing new, we're just trying to bring back what we had in the past. We live as good neighbors. In order, however, to preserve the Muslim character of the village, there must be a limit to the number of non-Muslims who would be allowed to live in the village. Let us have a brief description, because today's lecture is not going to spell out everything, of the physical layout of a Muslim village. And this is what we used to have 100 years ago. All Muslim residents in the village would live in homes located within walking distance of the village masjid. And there's only one masjid in the village. Only one. We will not allow a second one. And so all residents of the village would walk to the masjid. You can't drive to the masjid because I have no parking lot around the masjid. Not at all. You got to walk to the masjid and walk back home. And so all homes would be located around the masjid. Walking to and from the masjid is sunnah. It ought to be revived. The physical exercise of walking is something which is not only good for the health. I do a little bit of walking now in the morning myself. It's not only good for the health. I invite Maulana Siddiq to join with me and walk. He does a lot of walking himself too. But according to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, walking to the masjid and walking back brings barakah, blessing. I don't know whether you get blessing, you drive a Toyota Camry to the masjid. Now, do you notice, I mean those of you who are my age, when we were children, did you see anybody sitting on a chair in the masjid? No. We never saw that. But suddenly now, 50 years later, every masjid have to have a large number of chairs for people who can't go down and sit down. Why? It is the lifestyle that has come with the modern life, the modern world. And in turning away from that lifestyle, we restore health to our people. So that eventually the children growing up in this masjid, in this village, very few, if any, will ever need to sit on a chair in the masjid. This must surely bring blessings. The interaction of Muslims as they walk to and from the masjid, the interaction of believers as they walk around the village, constantly walking, this interaction, this constant interaction of everyone will enhance village life. The flavor, mark my words, the flavor of life in the village will be enriched. The aroma of village life will increase. The splendor of village life will be something to be enjoyed, something far different from today where you even know who your neighbor is. You could spend a whole year living next door to your neighbor, you never talk to your neighbor yet. You don't know who your neighbor is. You even know your name. In the village, there will be electricity. There will be excitement because of Allah's creation. Allah created us to live like this with constant interaction. The houses of the Muslim village would be such that villagers would be advised to adhere to simplicity and austerity, which is a sunnah in the construction of houses. No one should flaunt his wealth by building a mansion, building a palace. Villagers would be encouraged, would be assisted in the effort to build houses which would, as much as is possible, be in harmony with nature. And so you probably would not need air conditioning. A toilet. I seem to remember that when you enter a toilet, you have to enter with your left foot. Is it true? Come on, shake your head, man. Huh? When you enter a toilet, you have to enter with your left foot. Yes or no? Yes, say it. Yes. Why? Because it's an unclean place, isn't it? Isn't it? You don't want to talk, if I can. It's an unclean place. So angels will not enter the unclean place, will they? The shayateen will go there, the jinn will go there, but the angels will not go in the unclean place. Huh? Well, what happens if you take the toilet from outside the house and bring it inside the house? How come you're so quiet now? You take the toilet from outside the house where it used to be yesterday Nobody, unless he be someone fit for sedans, nobody yesterday would build a house with the toilet inside the house. No, because the house has to be pure, clean. You leave your shoes outside, don't you? You leave your shoes outside. So who would leave his shoe outside but put the toilet inside? You understand now? The mastermind was a rogue. He took us for a ride, didn't he? Because I don't think the angels will enter a house in which one part of the house is unclean. But that's my opinion. And so in the village we try to build our houses in accordance with the sunnah. And that is that the toilet is detached from the house. The masjid. The village will have only one masjid. It will be located in the center of the residential area. The Blessed Prophet ﷺ said, I leave behind me two things. So long as you hold on to them, you'll never go astray. The Book of Allah and my Sunnah. As a consequence, we will try as best as we can to ensure that the religious life in the masjid is firmly based on the Quran and the Sunnah and the international monetary system. Cemetery. Isn't it Sunnah to go to the cemetery, to remember those who have died, to make dua for them? It is Sunnah. The modern godless world builds its cities in such a way that the cemetery is located far away. So you seldom ever go to the cemetery except when you have to bury somebody. But we would build our cemetery in the village somewhere contiguous with the residential area. So people, while walking to and from the masjid, can frequently visit the cemetery and remember death. Remember death. And so prepare for that day when instead of walking to the cemetery, we have to be carried to the cemetery. Schools. The village must eventually establish its own primary school. A number of villages can combine to establish a secondary school. Contrary to the existing Muslim school system in this country, the Muslim school in the village would not accept any state funding. And hence it would not be subject to any state control. Education would be based entirely on the system constructed by the village itself. There will be no division between secular education and religious education. So morning you go to school and evening you go maktab. No, we don't want to create people with dual personalities. Rather, all will combine in the school and be brought together as a harmonious whole, and we insist that the Quran must be the fountainhead, the foundation of all knowledge and all education. But this is Maulana Siddiq Nasir's work and the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah Institute. But in addition to teaching in schools, children, and general education for people, villagers, we need to do something more. We need to produce our scholars, because Allah Himself speaks in the Quran about the ulama. And if He speaks about the ulama, you're going to pay a price if you do not struggle to create your learned scholars. And learned scholars don't have to be men as well, alone. Learned scholars can be both men as well as women. And so the villages combining together must ensure that an institution of higher Islamic learning, an institution of higher Islamic learning is established, like what Maulana Ansari established in Pakistan, the Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies, which produced Maulana Siddiq Nasir, Sheikh Ali Mustafa, who was here, Maulana Wafi Muhammad, myself and others. This would train our people so we can produce the scholars, the ulama, who will be able to teach and to guide our people in the generations to come. Agriculture. The village must produce its own food. Why? Because Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran has guided us to that. When the young man woke up after 300 years in the cave, if you've been sleeping for 300 years and you wake up, the first thing you feel is hungry. So they sent someone to buy some food. And they gave him instructions. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامٍ. Go search for that food which is purest. Meaning that you're living in a world in which food is constantly corrupted and contaminated. It will be a wonderful experience for any of you to go with Maulana Siddiq Nasir when he goes to a grocery shop to buy groceries. You see him examining every label very carefully. Because food is increasingly corrupted. You're eating and you know it has some pork in it. Because they've concealed it very carefully. And once the pork got inside there, the angel ain't going to come to you. And so we produce our own food. And we consume what we produce. But we come back to that in a moment, inshallah. The cottage industries. An effort will be made to encourage beyond the agricultural base of the village. The agricultural base of the village is the base of the economy. But beyond that agricultural base, the village would encourage cottage industries. And so it will result in a diversified village economy. Particularly for those who are now working on minimum wage. Because if you're working on minimum wage, the chances are you're going to remain there forever and ever. But if you can get out of wage labor and produce your own goods in your cottage industries and sell, then Allah is the one who provides risk and you can get out of minimum wage. The religious structure of the village. All Muslim residents in the village would constitute one Jamaat. At the back of the hall you find my book, One Jamaat, One Amir. And that book will spell out in detail the structure, the religious structure of the village. I'm just giving you a brief mention of it. All members of all people resident in the village, all Muslims resident in the village would constitute one Jamaat. That Jamaat would have one Amir. All members of the Jamaat would have to give a pledge to obey the Amir so that we can have discipline in this village. Any villager who is unwilling to obey the Amir, despite our efforts to convince him to do so, would have to leave the village. And so the lawyers are going to have to work out the legal system that would make it possible for us to remove him from the village. The Amir, in turn, would have an obligation to establish Islam in the Jamaat. It is not sufficient for us to be preaching Islam. Lecture after lecture after lecture after lecture. Man, we're tired of hearing you, man. Why don't you establish the thing? You're talking. Why don't you establish it? And so the Emir will have an obligation to establish Islam in the village. When you establish Islam, then your da'wah now has a second part. You can say, come brother, come sister, come see Islam. Come and see Islam. It will be a living force, and the truth will attract people to it. You don't have to do it. The truth itself will attract the hearts of people. What about disputes in the village? Disputes we shall now solve with kaplas. The village of old in Trinidad, the village of old regulated its disputes through a village panchayat, isn't it? So why do you want to come to attack us now if we want to bring back the panchayat? It's only Lloyd Best who could do it and we can't do it. This is a village court, and it works only to the extent that villagers respect it and villagers are willing to submit to its decisions. Our panchayat will be headed by in Trinidad they call it Qazi. The correct pronunciation is Qadi. And Haji Ruknuddin Rahimahullah was Qazi, wasn't he? That is the village judge. So the village panchayat will be headed by a village Qazi or Qadi, who would decide all disputes in accordance with the Sharia. Our goal in establishing the panchayat, in establishing the economic system of the village, in establishing the political structure of the village, our goal is to so establish justice in the village that we eventually succeed in achieving a virtually crime-free village, which would be the envy of the rest of the country. In addition to this brief description of the layout, the structure, the functions of the village, let us go on to speak in a little bit more detail about the benefits of establishing Muslim villages. Anybody you know who was kidnapped recently? Who was murdered? The lady come home with her car, and as she get out of the car to open the gate, the fellas came and killed her. I don't know who did it. Or they went and they pick up the child, playing, kidnap the child, they want $10 million now. It's happening more and more. And nobody seems to be able to stop it. We're living in a world which is becoming unbelievably dangerous. It's becoming, growing more and more dangerous. Murder, random killing, gang warfare, kidnapping, including the kidnapping of children, rape, robbery, all of these things are becoming commonplace that we didn't have when we were children growing up. Now that we have understood the world from the Quran, we know it's going to get worse tomorrow. We have a duty to protect ourselves and our families. Well, how do the rich solve the problem? The rich solve the problem by moving to gated communities, gated enclaves, walls around and gates, where only the rich can live. They employ heavily armed security guards with guard dogs and sirens and security alarms and this and that and the other. And so the rich ensure their own security, but in the process, they literally throw the poor to the dogs. That's happening all over the world today. Such a solution, we argue, it demeans and it antagonizes the poor, and it earns the hatred. Can we build a village where the rich and the poor will live side by side? Can we build a village which would take charge of its own security without having to employ security guards? A village where the rich and the poor would both engage simultaneously in establishing community organized collective security for the village. So you're not going to sleep on your bed every night. No matter who you are, rich or poor. A few nights of the week you're going to be out there patrolling. It doesn't matter who you are, rich or poor. We believe that Islam can bring the rich and the poor together to live in such a fraternity. We believe that Islam can put a rich man to function alongside a poor man in watchmanning and patrolling. If our experiment succeeds, then inshallah residents can sleep with their windows open. There would be no need for iron bars and burglar proofing when you build your houses. So your houses won't look like prisons. If this experiment succeeds, then women can walk around any time of the night and day, walk around the village in perfect safety. Isn't that a benefit? Would the country not benefit from seeing this experiment succeeding? But more than that, the PNM brought black nationalism to this country. 1956. I was 14 years of age in 56 when the elections took place. That black nationalism has damaged the body politic of the country and has produced racial polarization. Unless we find a way out of the racial dilemma, this country will eventually capsize. In fact, we may not have much time left before we reach that abyss. Small minds with limited vision cannot see the poverty of thought, the futility of effort, and the betrayal of Islam, which is involved in a UNC-sponsored Hindu-Muslim, that is Indian-Muslim unity, that will preserve a racial solidarity with which to confront the PNM's black nationalism. Let me repeat that. Small minds with limited vision cannot see the poverty of thought, futility of effort, and betrayal of Islam involved in a UNC-sponsored Hindu-Muslim unity, meaning Indian Muslims, that would preserve a racial solidarity with which to confront the PNM's black nationalism. It ain't going to work. We do not want to betray Islam. Rather, the Muslim village would transcend the politics of race to establish, or rather to make the effort, bi'iznillah, to seek to establish and to sustain the healing balm of a racial fraternity. Islam, and I believe only Islam, can bind the races together by binding their hearts together in a brotherhood. And so, when the Muslim village establishes and sustains a racial fraternity of all the races living together as a family the way we used to live before in this country, the Muslim village would have succeeded in doing what the PNM can do and the UNC can do and the other religious bodies cannot do. Is that not beneficial? We're not the first. Imam Nazim Muhammad has already succeeded in doing that in both Settlement Jamaat and Rio Claro. Please go and visit him and see what he's done. We live in a country in which, despite abundant wealth, oil, gas, we are the major supplier of natural gas now to the United States of America. Despite abundant wealth, despite a very fertile soil, despite a very well-educated population, the number of people who live below the poverty line is above 30%. And those who are living in poverty can look forward to permanent poverty, forever and ever and ever. When the rich are permanently rich, and the poor are imprisoned in permanent poverty, then that is oppression. Around the world today, that oppression has descended upon mankind. Banking, insurance, and a monetary system based on paper, plastic, and electronic money have combined to destroy the free and the fair market. The problem is compounded by a value system that glorifies the rich. If you're rich, you're somebody. And if you're poor, you're nobody. All over the world today, poverty is not only considered to be something increasingly disgraceful and demeaning, but also something to be feared, something to be abolished. The President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago lectured recently, we want to abolish poverty. I laughed when I read it. The rich nations of the world have reasons to fear the poor, since they themselves have played a dirty role in bringing about mass poverty. When the masses plant, they do not reap the fruit of their labor. They do not reap the fruit of their labor. Others do so. And so eventually, the poor become criminals. The Muslim village will strive, as I said earlier, to restore the free and the fair market by eliminating riba as much as we can. And so eliminating riba through the front door, meaning the commercial banks, Republic Bank, etc. And eliminating riba through the back door, meaning the Muslim credit union. I am not unfairly attacking my brothers. No. What they're doing is wrong. It is riba, and I've warned them again and again. And they can understand, but they're hiding behind fatwa. We will we will seek to eliminate banking. Mankind will stand before Allah on the last day as equal in His sight as are the teeth of a comb. And so men as well as women stand equal before Allah. Allah gave men, He gave to men rights, but Allah gave to women also rights. In the age of Dajjal, when that revolution takes place amongst the world of women, and it's now happening before our eyes, the feminist revolution, that he will so brainwash people that we would corrupt the place and the status of woman in society and deprive her of many of her rights. We have to strive and struggle to ensure that our village is as authentic as is possible in restoring and establishing for women her true status and place and role in village life, and restoring for her all the rights that Allah and His Messenger gave to her. And so first of all, in the village, the night cannot try to become day. No. Around the world today, the night is trying to become day. You know what I'm talking about. When the night tries to become day, what happens? The woman loses her femininity. I mean, the face looks like a man now. The voice sounds like a man. She behaves like a man. All the shyness, all the bashfulness, all the modesty, all the efforts to conceal is gone. And now she's as open as any man. So she loses her femininity. And in the process of attempting to become day, she also loses her fertility. She can have babies. But in the Muslim village, our women will be women and our men will be men. Is that not beneficial? Allah's Messenger said, do not prevent the woman from coming to the masjid. Did He say so, yes or no? If she chooses to perform her salat at home, she has the freedom to do so. She got babies to take care of. She gets the same amount of blessings whether she performs salat at home or in the masjid. The choice is hers. But the men must perform salat in the masjid. And so in the village, if we have 200 families, Fajr salat in the masjid, you will have about 250 men. Did you hear me? Because the men have to go to the masjid. You walk into the masjid. What a wonderful masjid that would be for Fajr Salat, 250 people. If you're saying your Salat at home and you're a man, what's wrong? Why aren't you in the masjid? Because it's walking distance. But a woman can perform her Salat at home or she can come to the masjid. That's the sunnah. Okay. What is the sunnah? When she comes to the masjid, I am asking you, what is the sunnah when she comes to the masjid? Where does she sit? What is the sunnah? Should we put her upstairs? Should we put her in an annex? Or should we put the masjid side by side? Put men on one side, put the women on the other side. Put a partition between. What is the sunnah? If you are Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, I am asking you, what is the sunnah? And if the sunnah is lost, should we not bring it back? Allah's Messenger said, Sallallahu Ta'ala Alayhi Wasallam, the hadith is in Sahih Muslim, it's still there. The best row, saf means row, the best row for the men is the first. So when a man enters the masjid, he don't have choice where to go. You've got to go in the first row. And when the first row is filled, only then will you go to the second row. And when the second is filled, only then will you go to the third row. You don't spread out. And he said the worst row for the men is the last row. Shar, meaning dangerous. What is the danger in the last row? Huh? Can anybody answer that question? If you put the women in the annex, or you put them upstairs, or better than that, you throw them out of the masjid. Get out! No women in this masjid! Get out! I raised my voice. We went to Tobago last weekend with Sheikh Ali Mustafa. While I was in Tobago, Brother Faiz Amin told me the story. His sister went into a masjid right here in Trinidad to perform salat, and she went to the back of the masjid. The Messenger of Allah said the best row for the woman is the last row. And so when a woman goes to the masjid, she goes to the last row. She has no option. And she's in the best row. And when the last row is filled up, then she goes to the second to last. And this is precisely what she did. And while she was standing in prayer, a senior member of the management of that masjid came up in front of her and started shouting at her, "Get out of this masjid! Get out of this masjid! Get out of this masjid! We don't want women in this masjid!" Now do you see why we need to build a Muslim village? She did the right thing. But they threw her out of the masjid. So she continued with her salat until she finished. But the man didn't stop. Even when she finished and she was leaving the masjid, he kept on shouting at her, "Get out of the masjid!" If you're comfortable with that kind of Islam, then you have eyes but you can't see. You have ears but you can't hear. You have hearts but you cannot understand. But he said that the worst row for the woman, the one with the most dangerous, is the first. Why? What's the danger for the last row for the man and the danger for the first row for the woman? What's the danger? If you take plywood and you put up a barrier, where is the danger? Take your plywood and put up a barrier in the man, where is the danger? The danger is you have changed the religion. This is not the religion that the Prophet left, alayhi salatu wasalam. Because she is now deprived of seeing the Imam as he stands on the mimbar to give the khutbah. You have deprived her of that right that she had in the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that she had in the time of his companions. And so in the Muslim village, we seek to restore to the Muslim woman every right that Allah and His Messenger gave to her. Is that not beneficial? Around the world today, brothers and sisters, there's war on Islam. If you're in France, you can't go to school with hijab. I drive on the roads of Trinidad, and when school over, I see the pretty sight. I see so many school girls, Indian and African, in hijab. And I say, praise be to Allah. But in France, that's not allowed. You'll be thrown out of school. And what is happening in France today is going to happen in the rest of the world tomorrow. It's coming. It is a war on Islam. The intention is to break your faith. The intention is to ensure that you lose Islam. How do we preserve Islam? Answer is you've got to establish it. You cannot simply teach and preach, you have to establish Islam. We cannot establish Islam today, anywhere on the face of the earth, as a state, with control over government. Impossible. Because those who control the world would not allow it. Alright, if the macro is not possible, is the micro possible? That is the philosophy of the Muslim village. That it is impossible to establish Islam at the macro level until Imam al-Mahdi arises. But if you differ with me, go ahead and try. If we cannot establish Islam at the macro level, do we have any excuse before Allah for not establishing it at micro level? If you attempt to establish it at the micro level, it must be remote, so it does not pose a threat to their godless world. وَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ, says Allah in Surah Al-Kahf. When you turn away from them, وَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, and you turn away from their godlessness, فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ, flee to the cave, meaning flee to a place of safety, which is the Muslim village. يَنْشُرْ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَيُهَيِّئْ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِكُمْ مِرْفَقًا. Allah will shower you with His mercy. Allah will protect you in the Muslim village. The world around us is already showing all the signs of vulgarity, of corruption, of godlessness. Do we want to wait for that day when people are committing sexual intercourse in public like donkeys? Do we want to wait for that before we take our wives and children away? No, we should not wait for that. When we can see the signs, this is already coming. The Muslim village is meant to take people away from that vulgarity, from that corruption, from that godlessness. I spoke to you about food already. I don't think we have the time to go into any more detail on the food. Now let me go finally to methodology. What should be our method? You can differ with me. Ashmead already differs with me, and Ashmead is going to come to speak to you just now. And Sheikh Sadiq Nasir will speak to you just now, inshallah. This is my opinion. You can prove me to be wrong with my opinion. I think that our plan should be to proceed stage by stage, because that's the methodology in the Quran, stage by stage. I think that stage one should be a massive program of public education, because I am anticipating that the enemy is going to try to paint this village project in ugly colors. So we take in front before in front take us in a massive program of public education, that we explain very clearly what we are about in establishing a Muslim village. Stage two would be to establish what I like to call weekend villages. So you don't have to sell your houses yet. You could continue to live in Tunapuna and Takarikwa and Larawin. But we have a weekend village. So Friday evening when you get off work, put your wife and your children in the car and you head for the village. And you try to reach before Maghrib. And you remain in the village until Sunday after Zuhr. So after Zuhr you can go and take care of whatever chores you have. Somebody's sick, you have to visit and so on. Sunday afternoon. You're shopping and so on, your groceries and so on, Sunday afternoon. Between Friday evening and Sunday Zuhr, we give you a taste of what it is to live in a Muslim village. The one that your grandmother used to live in 100 years ago in Trinidad. What it was like. What life used to be like once upon a time. Bring it back. We will need to lease land. We don't have to buy it. Lease a large plot of land, 5 acres, 10 acres perhaps. We need to construct a large, these are my ideas, you don't have to agree with me. Construct a large carrot roof shed. So it's cheap to construct and it's cool. But it must be so large that it can accommodate 300-400 people under the shed. We'll use this carrot roof shed for salat, for classes, for dining, for social work. Around the large shed, we put up tents where people can sleep. Collapsible tents. We put it up Friday, take it on Sunday. And a family will come and stay in the tent. During this period of time that you are in the village, everybody must participate in the 5 daily salah. A woman who wants to pray in her tent, of course she has the freedom to pray in the tent. She wants to come to join the Jamaat, she has the freedom to do so, but she'll be at the back and the men at the front, and there'll be no barrier in between the two, not in this masjid. Educational programs will be established for teaching and for demonstrating, teaching and demonstrating the religion to men, to women, to children. But I warn you, we need people who can put in this village. You will have to go to sleep after Isha Salah. And waking up gossiping until midnight. Shortly after Salatul Isha, you're going to sleep. Which means that you have to have your meal before Maghrib or immediately after Maghrib, so the food can digest. And after Isha, shortly after Isha Salah, you're going to sleep. So this is going to be a strange village when 3 o'clock comes. Huh? When 3 o'clock comes, 3:30 come, whole village waking. And you walk by that tent and you're hearing Subhanallah sakhkhara lana hadha. You walk by that tent, Alhamdulillah alladhi anzala. People reciting the Quran. The Messenger of Allah used to walk around Medina before Fajr. And then in the Fajr Salat, after the Salat, he turned to this one. He said, you must raise your voice. What do you mean by that? He turned to another one, he said, you must lower your voice. Why? Because he was walking around in the dark, listening to people reciting the Quran in Salatul Tahajjud. So when you come to the village, you'll be waking up early. You'll be going to sleep early. It is our hope that the experience or the taste of living in the weekend village would encourage people to move, to want to move permanently to the Muslim village. So here are the 3 stages. Stage 1, a mass program of public education. Stage 2, establishing weekend villages, which does not require much funding. Just to lease the land put up the carrot growth shed and get the tents. And an engineer to do some drainage work. And stage 3 would be to establish the village itself, about which I have not spoken. We wish to invite all those who are attracted to this project to come forward, to give us your names and your contact information, so that meetings can be arranged for further detailed explanations of the project and for an action plan to be established, inshallah. I would like you to go back and read the book One Jamaat, One Amir, 1:30. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may guide us in this project and protect this project, that we may eventually succeed in establishing Muslim villages in this country where Islam may be preserved as a way of life. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا يَا مَوْلَانَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ